Bunny Girl Senpai excels at capturing the complicated and often conflicting feelings that occur during the most pivotal time in our lives. In her 2-episode arc, Futaba's mental distress causes her to split into 2 halves, but at one point, she indicates that she's always hated herself. So I found myself asking, where exactly does her self-loathing come from? Futaba's self-hatred stems from her feelings of insecurity and unworthiness, which is caused by the repression of her other self, her lonely past, and her friendship with Sakuta and Kunimi. This video will contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched this anime already, then I highly recommend it. So what caused Futaba's adolescent syndrome? In Futaba's words,
相反する目的と手段の間に強烈なストレスを感じていたことが私を乖離させた。
In episode 8, Futaba reveals that she started her Twitter account before summer break, which means it started right at the conclusion of the Koga arc. However, I believe she first started feeling this stress to be noticed in between the end of Mai's arc and the start of Koga's arc. If we look at episode 4, which starts on June 27th and continues to repeat from here, look at how this shot keeps lingering on Futaba with a particular focus on her expression, which makes her seem a bit withdrawn, like she's not really contributing to the conversation. It's very easy to be dismissed, but by the second time loop when Kunimi asks her a question, the way she answers is timid and slightly surprised, as if she didn't expect Kunimi to address her. We see this self-consciousness start to turn into frustration when June 28th finally arrives and we get this scene.
彼女持ちの男子に声をかけられて嬉しいとか思ってる自分に嫌気がさしてるだけ。
そりゃまた乙女チックな悩みだな。
She feels like she knows better than to be so desperate, but she can't help her feelings, and that's what makes her feel disgusted with herself. And in episode 5, we continue to see her struggling with hiding her feelings from Kunimi. Her wording is that it would be problematic if he found out. And so, without a way to get validation from the person she loves, she reaches out to anyone that'll give her a reaction. And then she's unable to reconcile the fact that she would stoop so low just to get some attention. This is what causes the original Futaba to cut ties with this part of herself, abandoning all of the things that remind her of her loneliness, including her house, her cell phone, and her deepest feelings. It's as if she had a bad breakup with herself and stormed out in rebellion, giving us the 2 separate halves that I'll be referring to as Futaba 1 and Futaba 2. Futaba 1 clearly can't stand to see Futaba 2 and even denies that there's any relation between them, only referring to her as a fake. Futaba 2, on the other hand, doesn't hate Futaba 1, but she's angry that Futaba 1 doesn't like to admit things to herself. Hence why later on, Futaba 2 urges Sakuta to help her other self who has it worse than her. The reason they're acting this way is because Futaba 1 is a manifestation of Futaba's insecurity and self-consciousness, while Futaba 2 is a manifestation of her loneliness and desire for attention. Futaba 2 is willing to do whatever it takes to get this need fulfilled, even if it means increasing her physical appeal, just to get a reaction. Futaba 1, on the other hand, isn't comfortable in her own skin and doesn't feel like her body is good enough. Her natural inclination is to conceal herself, whether it's physically by putting on a lab coat or by masking her desires and emotions with stoicism. That's why she can't agree with Futaba 2's methods, because she feels like it's wrong to expose herself to get more attention. However, we find out that Futaba taking pictures of herself is far from recent. Futaba 2 shows Sakuta pictures that she took in middle school as a form of self-mutilation. People only do this when they want to confirm negative beliefs about themselves. In Futaba's case, she wanted to show herself how stupid she looked for wanting attention. Considering she was punishing herself this early on, it seems that her negative beliefs about herself go much further back. In episodes 7 and 8, we get a few subtle clues as to what Futaba's upbringing was like. When Futaba 1 has breakfast at Sakuta's house, she remarks that it's her first time in a while eating breakfast with others. When Futaba 2 brings Sakuta to her home, she says that her parents are away on business, and even makes it sound normal,
うちではよくあるよ。
which implies that they're never home. However, when she says,
高校に入るまではこんな不安はなかった。学校でも家でも一人でいるのが当たり前だったから。
is when we get a more complete picture of how Futaba's life was like growing up. A child that grows up neglected eventually starts to think the reason for this is because they're unwanted, and so they either seek out attention or learn to swallow their feelings and not bother anyone. At first, a young Futaba might have cried and begged her parents for attention, and in their busyness, they might have been quick to reprimand her, telling her it's wrong to cry out for it, much less expect it from anyone. And after being alone for so long, she just got used to it. But just because we get used to something doesn't mean our feelings go away. As much as she grew up to believe she wasn't good enough to deserve anything, buried deep down still existed the lonely child who sought some semblance of attention, even if it was from a kind stranger that gave her something to brighten her day. This is the true identity of Futaba 2. She's the inner Futaba, the one who isn't afraid to show that she has wants and needs like everyone else. That's why she's more honest with her feelings and lacks hesitation, because her desires override the negative voice in her head. That's why she's able to do things like candidly ask Sakuta to stay the night with her because she's afraid. But is that a good thing, seeing as how it's her friends that made her this vulnerable in the first place? For the entire time Futaba has been friends with Sakuta and Kunimi, there's been a wall between them, a wall of fear.
それが高校に入って1年であずさ川と国見と同じクラスになってそれから不安に思うようになった。
People can't fear losing something they've never had. Meeting Sakuta and Kunimi allowed her to experience the gift of friendship and acceptance. But now that she was given this treasure, she was also given something she could lose. That's why Sakuta and Kunimi mean the world to her, being that they're her first and only friends. The thought of losing something so special is devastating. So that's why she's never truly opened up to them or demanded anything of them, because of that reinforced belief in her head that it's wrong to ask things of people, especially those closest to you. However, it's when Kunimi and Sakuta get girlfriends that she starts fearing that she'll be forgotten. And it's this fear that drives her to want to be noticed in any form by Kunimi, even if it's just a greeting on the train just to know that she still exists. But she stops herself from reaching out any further because it would be problematic if her feelings drove them away. And it's this inner turmoil that keeps her stuck in place. So when she sees that her friends continue to get farther and farther away with their lives, she resigns herself to get attention elsewhere. And it's not until Futaba 2 finally sees that she hasn't become any less relevant to her friends, and Futaba 1 learns that it's okay to speak up to her friends and say what she wants, that the two Futabas are able to come back together and take a step forward as one. And with that, the reunified Futaba is finally able to face Kunimi with her feelings head on, because she's able to accept both parts of herself as equally valid. And more important than Kunimi's answer is that now Futaba can finally reveal her truest self with the people that matter most.